I'd like to quickly take a second to talk to my fellow veterans. And I'd like to tell you that if you feel like you're suffering from post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, anxiety or depression, or any of the other invisible wounds, that you don't have to do it alone. Home Base is here to help. And we want to be your ally as you go through your healthcare journey. So please reach out to us if you're a veteran, if you're a family member, if you're a friend or a coworker. Make sure that they know about this partnership and what's going on here today. You know, we've heard some amazing speakers today talk about the clinical excellence of both David Lawrence Center and Home Base. We've heard some people talk about the real need for these services. And perhaps most importantly, we heard about the implied trust that will be there to deliver those services for our veterans and their family members. Next, you're going to hear about how these services can maybe even save a life. Our next speaker is a Naples native. In fact, he attended St. John Newman High School, which is just about a mile east of here. He served his country honorably for 17 years in the United States Army as a chemical, biological, radiological, and explosive specialist, as well as a combat engineer. He has awards that include a Bronze Star, 2 Army Accommodation Medals, 3 Army Achievement Medals, and 4 Good Conduct Medals, as well as an Iraqi Campaign Medal. He was also awarded Soldier of the Year in 2004 and Non-Commissioned Officer of the Year in 2012. His leadership was instrumental in building and bringing the Army Reserve Center to Cape Coral just before he retired in 2019. Most recently, he graduated near the top of his class with a master's degree in public administration from Clemson University. He's a father, a husband, a youth coach, a veteran advocate, and a friend. He's joined today by his wife, Amber. Please help me welcome Matt Lopes.
I'm not sure I can beat Armando's introduction there. That was very well. I don't know what else to say. I first would like to take a moment and recognize, thank you all the leaders that are in here today. If it wasn't for your influential change and seeing the vision, we wouldn't be here today. So I really want to thank you for buying into Home Base. It is a proven source of mental health treatment. I was born and raised in Naples, Florida. My father's retired Collier County Sheriff. I have a cousin who still serves on the force for Collier County. Grew up playing baseball. Grew up in Naples Park Elementary. I remember driving by David Lawrence as a kid and there was nothing else around here, right, on the way to school. But this is my community and it's very nice to see that we're finally bringing this here to Collier County. So a little bit about my deployment. I served with Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Anybody that's aware of that, that's the bomb squad. Served my deployment overseas. Literally every day it was a blast because somebody was trying to blow us up or we were going out to something else. And those anxiety-driven missions, every day you had to wonder, are they going to get me this time? A lot of times we get called out to fake IEDs for the sole purpose of placing a bomb in the road on the way back to blow us up. To the fact of even doing operations where one of our other service members got hit by an IED and being on the other side of that radio call. I don't know what was worse, if it was getting blown up and being there or having to listen helplessly on the other side of that radio communication, wondering what you can do to help that situation. So coming back from Iraq and then everything else that has transpired, I didn't realize I had a problem. I met Armando when they first founded in 2014, started the Reserve Center. I had a wonderful soldier come up to me and said, I got a friend I grew up with, and this is what they're doing. And I said, let's bring them in. Let's let them talk. We have the avenue. Most reservists are combat veterans that have gotten off active duty and went into reserves. I brought them in. We started helping out with different events that they were trying to do, really support them. It wasn't for about 6 years later. I had a rough patch with what was going on in my marriage. I was very broken. I was in tears. It was in February of 18. I said, Armando, I need to go to this intensive program. How do I get into it? They didn't have any availability until September of 18. Crazy how God works. A week before I was supposed to go to treatment, me and my wife hit our breaking point and separated. That was all of it. Me and my kids, we went one way, her and her kids went another way. It was very difficult in that moment. But going through Home Base made me realize that as a veteran, Our stories were all different, but those coping mechanisms on the back end were all the same, whether it was using alcohol, anxiety, depression, the drug use, the isolation, the self-sabotage. Those were all very real and very similar, which helped me understand that I wasn't alone. Everybody else out there was kind of dealing with the same thing, just in different manners. So that was important for me. And then not only that, did we go through the treatment there, they gave us the tools when we came back to, hey, that trigger's hit, and here's some tools in the toolbox to deal with that trigger. Fortunately, when I came back, we didn't have this continued care. I was fortunate enough to get linked up with Dr. Yara Garcia, who teaches at FGCU now. But I was linked up with her, amazing therapist, and she provided that continued care up to about like 6 months ago when she decided to instruct full time. It felt like I was going through a divorce with her at that point. So I had to restart with somebody else. But knowing that gap is now filled, whether it's here at David Lawrence or at Lee Health, that is so important because home base is that ignition source. They get the ball rolling. They stir up that hornet's nest. But then when you come back, if you don't have that continued care, because that motivation will die. You'll come back and then you're like, oh, now what? 6 months later, you're back doing the same things. So they really helped tie that in, and I'm so happy to hear that David Lawrence is here partnering because that continued care. I've seen it on the flip side where continued care wasn't offered, and I was on the phone days before a soldier committed suicide, trying to convince them to go back and get treatment, and it was already too late. So the good side of this story, though, is after a year of working on myself, me and my wife got a divorce. I really had to just dive into myself and realize self-care was important. Ran into my wife about a year later, haven't talked to her or anything, and our love never changed. We started dating again. We dated for a year, and we got remarried in September of 2021, and we're living our best life now. We're able to talk, whereas before any difficult conversation I'd want to run. I would relate to those poor coping mechanisms. But now we're living our best life, and I can thank you, Amber, for being here today with me and being brave with me today. I really appreciate it. And that's the other side of this treatment. She got to see the results of that with me coming home and those triggers that would process, and she didn't understand how to do that. And even, I'd like to use that as an example. We had a traumatic event happen with her children's father who was shot and burned in a car at Golden Gate Estates. As a father and as a husband, I needed to be emotionally there, and I'm sorry I wasn't capable of that at that time. I wasn't, and that tied into our falling point, our breaking points, because I thought, how do I protect us as somebody coming after our family? But I wasn't there emotionally to support my wife, and a lot of that kind of tied into our breaking point. So I want to say thank you to Home Base, to David Lawrence, and everybody that's here that's done all the legwork to get us to this point. I can't tell you how valuable that is to our veterans here locally. So thank you to everyone. I appreciate it.